Have you been wanting to make your own handmade soap for a while but have been feeling really daunted by it? You've probably watched a lot of YouTube videos and you'd like to get started but you've never actually made a soap batch before. If that's you, then this video is for you. I have created a really simple but well-balanced, beautiful soap recipe that's perfect for beginners, and I'm going to demonstrate it for you today. After you watch this video, you're just going to feel really confident to be able to get in there, get your soap made, and you'll be done. It'll be really easy once you just get over that hurdle. You will need a few little bits of equipment and ingredients to make your first handmade soap using this recipe. You will need a mold to pour your soap into. To keep this really basic for beginners, I'm just using a milk carton that I've cut the top off. But if you want to use some other kind of mold, a silicone mold is really easy. Make sure that it can hold 2 pounds of soap, or about a litre or about a quart of liquid. This is a 1 litre milk carton. That's the size that you need. You will need 2 jugs or 2 containers, one larger and one a bit smaller, to make your soap in this one, and something to mix your lye solution into. Basically, the lye solution in soap making is a solution made of caustic soda or sodium hydroxide and water that we carefully mix together, and then we pour that into our oils, mix them up, and that creates a chemical reaction called saponification, which transforms the oils into soap, and then it hardens, we cut it up, and we've got gorgeous soap. So you'll need caustic soda for the recipe. You'll need a container to measure that into with a lid so that you can keep it safe while you're doing other things. Caustic soda is used in drain cleaner. It's a really serious ingredient. You kind of do have to take soap making seriously, but once you know how to do it and you know how to look after yourself safety wise, it's really easy. So don't be daunted by it. Caustic soda, water, and you'll need some oils and fats, which I'll go through when I make the recipe. You'll also need some spoons and things to get your soap batter out of the jug. And the only other really important things are some gloves to protect your skin, because raw soap batter before it cures is quite caustic, but after that it's perfectly fine. It turns into gorgeous soap. You will need some eye protection. If you wear glasses like I do to see what you're doing, you really should get some goggles. They don't look very good. But no one's going to be watching you do this. Just get some goggles, some cheap ones from the hardware, to cover your eyes, because you don't want to get any lye solution in your eyes. You got to play it safe with this stuff. So I think I've got everything. I'm just going to show you how to make the soap. The first thing I do is weigh out my caustic soda or my sodium hydroxide. Make sure you zero your scale after you've put your container on there. And for this recipe, I need 96 grams. I find it easiest to just use a spoon and spoon it out of the container. Once you've weighed that out, put the lid on it straight away and just set it aside. Next, we're going to do the same for the water portion. We're going to weigh it straight into our lye solution jug, and I need 175 grams of water. Now that you have your water weighed and your caustic soda weighed, we're going to very carefully, making sure that you've got your goggles on, very carefully and slowly pour the caustic soda into the water. You never ever want to put the water into the dry caustic soda, always the dry into the wet. That's really important. And then stir that around. This will give off a bit of gas. You can wear a respirator mask if you want to, but I like to open my window and stand well clear of it, and just make sure you're in a really well ventilated area, and just stand away from the container as you're dissolving your sodium hydroxide. You only need to stir this for 30 seconds or so, just till it dissolves. It's going to be really hot. So this is a really hot caustic lye solution. So be very careful. Set that aside and rinse your spoon straight away. We want the lye solution to cool off a little bit, so we just set that aside. Do that first, set it aside and just let it sit there. And then we're going to start preparing our fats and our oils. This recipe requires 70 grams of some kind of butter or saturated hard fat. This is shea butter. You can also use cocoa butter. You could even use lard or tallow or mango butter. Any really hard saturated fat is fine for this. 70 grams of shea butter I'm putting in. Then to that I'm adding my coconut oil. Now your coconut oil might be liquid if it's summertime where you are, but it is winter time here and mine is a bit solid. I need 140 grams of coconut oil. I forgot to tear my scale, but that's 140 grams of coconut oil in there with the 70 grams of shea butter. Because this coconut oil and shea butter are solid, I do need to melt them. I'm just going to use my microwave on really low heat. That's the easiest way that I find to do it. But you can melt them on the stove as well, just on very, very low heat if that is what you'd prefer. So that's my coconut oil and my shea butter all melted, not overheated, but just melted. So to my coconut oil and shea butter, which I've melted, I'm going to add my liquid oil portion. And you need 490 grams of a liquid monounsaturated or polyunsaturated combination of liquid oils. You can use all olive oil, you can use a combination of olive oil and rice bran oil, you can add in some sunflower oil, peanut oil, cottonseed oil, soybean oil, all types of vegetable oils that you can use. Olive oil is probably my favorite, but it's really expensive at the moment. So mix and match these. You could also use some canola oil, which is really nice. So what we want is 490 grams total of your liquid oils, and I've just divided that into 3 with my calculator. Don't worry about getting all these in detail here. I will put the full recipe on my website. If you're worried that you won't be able to pour these into your other oils without over pouring them, do them individually, oil by oil, into a separate jug or bowl and then add them in. I've been doing this for a long time, so I'm pretty confident in my pouring, but you don't have to take that risk if you're not comfortable with that. I just zero my scale in between each one, but do them in a separate bowl if you feel more comfortable with that. And I jinxed myself there. I did a little over pour, but it's only a few grams. I'm not going to worry about it. It's just going to make the soap have a little bit more moisturizing effect. A few grams over is fine. Okay, so we've got our oils all assembled. Shea butter, coconut oil, and our combination of liquid vegetable oils that we're using. That's all ready, and that's just slightly warm because the shea butter and the coconut oil were melted, and the lye solution is still nice and warm. The combination in terms of heat of that one going into that one is going to make a nice, just warm temperature for our soap batter. Now we've got everything ready, we're just going to do the final organizing to actually make the soap. I'm using some essential oil, but that is completely optional. I'll put details of what you can use in the written description. I've got my mold ready to go. What else do I need? You do need a hand blender or a whisk to mix the soap. A hand blender is the easiest way. Don't buy an expensive one though, you just need a cheap one. I've had this cheap $10 one for over 10 years and have made hundreds of batches of soap with it, and it's still good. All we need to do now for the final stage is to carefully, making sure that you've still got your goggles on, pour your lye solution into your oils. Just pour that in, like so. Scrape that out. Put this jug somewhere safe and rinse it out straight away. And then we are just going to mix this soap batter, just slowly, just start to give it a bit of a stir. And then we're going to just pulse a little bit with our blender. See how the color changed? What we're looking for is that color change. So if you don't have a blender and you're hand mixing, you might have to mix for quite some time. It's very fast with a hand blender, which makes it easy. But just give it a few little bursts of blending and then give it a stir. Just be gentle, you don't want to splash this stuff everywhere. You'll notice I've got a plastic sheeting on my bench top too, which protects the bench. And what we're looking for is for this just to thicken. It doesn't have to thicken completely and be really thick. We want it to just start to get a little bit thick until it leaves a trace on the top. We call that trace in soap making. When you dribble the batter over the top, you can see it leaves a little trail behind. We're not quite there. We're close. Some soap making oils and butters trace faster than others. So you do have to be careful and just take each batch as it comes. This recipe traces a little bit fast, but not super fast. So we've got a trace now. I don't know if you can see that. That's thickened. Now you do not want to muck around. Do this bit confidently before it thickens up too quickly. I'm pouring my essential oils in now. If you're adding those, which you don't have to, but if you are, add them at trace. That's going to be the last thing that you do before you pour your soap into the mold. Make sure you stir them through really carefully, and I will leave information in the written recipe on my website about how much essential oils to use and also how much fragrance oil you might want to use if that's what you prefer to use. All right, now all that's left to do is to pour your lovely soap batter. Look how gorgeous that is. Wow, and it's getting thick now. See how it's getting thicker? It will just keep getting thicker and thicker and thicker until it sets. So we don't want to delay, we want to get this in the mold. So just really carefully hold your mold if you're using this, they're not very sturdy, and pour it down the side. This is going to be a gorgeous soap. Wow, look how thick it's getting now. I have been making soap for so long and I still love it. And nothing brings me more joy than sharing beautiful, simple, gorgeous soap recipes like this for newbies. If this helps get you started, then I'm a happy woman. That is it. Just scrape that out as best as you can. I do have a video about what to do, like how to wash up for soap making, because there are a few tricks to that to make it easy. I'll leave a link for that below. But scrape as much of the soap batter off as you can. Put that aside. Give your little mold a little tap. Smooth out the top if you want to, but don't worry too much about it. It doesn't really matter how lumpy that is. This is your first batch of soap, so don't get too caught up about it. Now, what you want to do with this is you have a couple of options. You can just leave this aside over a little while. As it cools down, it will get hard, and then I'll show you how to cut it, but you can keep it a little bit warm if you can, and that will help it to saponify a bit faster, and it'll help it to go through a gel phase, which is another technical thing that you don't really need to know to make the soap, but I do like to keep my soap a bit warm. All you want to do is find a nice warm spot for your soap. I'm going to cover it with a paper towel and just put a rubber band over the top. And then I'm just going to find a nice warm spot. The warmth is not necessary. You can just leave it out, but keeping it somewhere warm will help it to saponify a bit faster, and it will help it to have a more even texture inside. It'll still be fine soap if you don't keep it warm, but I'm going to put a beanie on mine. If you've got a cooler like this, a drinks cooler or a food cooler, it's a perfect place to put your soap to make it, help it gel. I'm going to just throw this blanket in here as well. Just be really gentle and careful. You don't want to disturb it or spill it, but that will help it stay warm too. And then just pop the lid on and forget about it for a while. I'm going to leave this now. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm going to leave this now until probably tomorrow morning, and I'll take it out and cut it up then. And well, it's the next morning now. Let's have a look at this soap. It smells really good. Whoop, there's the beanie. The big reveal. Oh, come on. It's nice and firm. You want to leave this soap long enough till it's firm, really nice and firm. I would leave it at least 12 to 18 hours, because if it's too soft, you will damage it when you take it out of this milk container. Look at that, looks really good. The easiest way that I find to get soap out of milk containers is to just cut down the top a little bit. I've got about an inch leeway there. So I'm just doing a few little snips like this down the side. And what you want to do then is just peel these back and tear it all the way down if you can. You can see it's a bit tacky. When your soap is still fresh like this, it's a good idea to wear gloves, because it's not fully saponified yet. It will still be a bit raw. Just put some gloves on to make it easier. There we go. It's a bit of a process. You know, if you've got a silicone loaf mold, like a bread or a cake mold, that's even better. But if you've got nothing and you just want to have a go and see if you like this idea of soap making, then this method works really well. That was a little bit harder than the last one I made. I don't know why, I think I might have left the other one a bit longer. But if you get any bits of soap like that stuck to your container, just get your knife and just clean it up like that, just like icing a cake or something, because the soap will stick to itself and it will be just fine. You can make it look nice and smooth, any tacky bits. But you know, this is your first batch of soap, so don't worry about it. It's going to be beautiful to use, and the point of this is just to give you a good experience of making some soap. To cut your soap, you can use a crinkle cutter like this, which gives a nice crinkled effect. These are pretty cheap off eBay and Amazon and places like that. Or you can just use a kitchen knife. I'm just going to eyeball this. I'm marking it in half, then half again. So I'm going to get 8 bars of soap out of this and just press down. It should be soft enough for you to cut with a knife pretty easily. Wow, beautiful. There you go. There is your gorgeous handmade soap. Just put it on a cooling rack to dry out. And there you have it, 8 bars of beautiful handmade soap, a very easy, lovely recipe and a gorgeous result. Your end pieces will look a bit funny. Your middle pieces will be absolutely perfect. Look at that. They look great. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found that helpful and it gives you the confidence to make your first batch of soap without too much stress. Thanks so much. I love being here with all of you, and I'll see you again soon. Bye. Bye.